If you always focus only on winning, then your level will be hard to improve. You'll always play conservatively. Have you ever felt that when you're playing? For example, you've practiced looping for a long time, but in matches you end up pushing everything? Or you're super aggressive in practice, but once the match starts, you suddenly soften up? When you play with friends, you can flick long balls easily, but in a match you only tap the ball? So how do we overcome this problem? Let me tell you something from the heart. Every athlete, even a world champion, gets nervous. Because in Sichuan team where I trained, we've produced a lot of champions. We compete all the time. 3 or 4 matches a week. There's no real psychological pressure for us. It's not tied to your salary, your bonus, or your future, yet we still get nervous. Because once you step onto the court, everyone wants to win and fears losing. So how do we avoid this issue? For most amateur players, one major reason is simply lack of training. You're not confident in your own technique. So how did I overcome it? I gave myself a growth period plan. For example, for 2 weeks I focused on looping. As soon as the serve crossed the net, forehand or backhand, I would loop. I practiced attacking first. If I could land 2 out of 10 loops, I felt like I was growing. Otherwise, your level stays the same for a year or 2. You don't improve. For example, I learned a pushing technique from my coach. After that, I practiced it for an entire evening. But in a match, I still played the old way. That means your brain learned it, but your body didn't. You have to change to improve. Without change, there's no progress. So during this process, I set aside time. My usual pushing technique was like this. But what did I change? I add more friction. I followed what the coach said. 1. Acceleration. 2. Peak of the bounce. 3. More friction. 4. Don't pull back during contact. 5. Pay attention to placement variations. I used to avoid pushing to the forehand, but now I dared to. Give yourself a growth period. Integrate your new technique and new ideas into real matches. There's always a transition period when you change. But once you blend it into real match play, your improvement won't just be 1 or 2 points. It might be a whole new level. You might suddenly beat someone you never could before. If you always focus only on winning, then your level will be hard to improve. You'll always play conservatively. When my dad used to compete, I observed him. Whenever he learned something new, he would definitely use it in matches. During that period he would lose more games, and the other uncles would joke that he was getting worse. But half a month or a month later, they simply couldn't beat him anymore. He had integrated the skill. He became more and more comfortable with it. You must dare to use it. If you practice looping very well, but in matches you don't dare to loop, then you lose the essence of table tennis. Winning by pushing or defending is only temporary. But if you actively loop, even if you land only 2 out of 10, today's you is already better than yesterday's you. Set your mindset right. Once your mentality stabilizes, focus on the process, the result will take care of itself. That opponent you could never beat before, today, suddenly, you beat them. Because once your training reaches a solid level, you will naturally start winning. My dad once said something very true. In the system of table tennis, there's no such thing as just blocking. When you receive and only try to block. As we mentioned earlier, you'll find that against weaker players you may get away with it. But stronger players will punish you easily. When your opponent gets just a bit stronger, you can't win by simply blocking. Maintain a mindset of growth. Even if I'm already 60 years old, if I'm just starting table tennis, then I'm a beginner. In this totally new world, I must adopt a new mindset. To truly experience the joy of competitive sports, only then can I enjoy it. If the things we practice every day never get used in actual matches, then we're just wasting our time. This is a mindset we all need to adjust, especially in competitive sports. No one can save you. When I was young, I felt very helpless during matches. After each point, I'd look at my coach. My coach told me, on the court only you can help yourself. Even God can't help you. Otherwise, you'll always lose to yourself. When receiving pushes, once you recognize it's side spin underspin, you must dare to apply force. You must dare to brush the ball. What does dare to brush mean? You can't tense up in the contact phase. If you freeze and make a soft touch, you'll definitely get caught by the spin. So when contacting the ball, your first thought must be, how do I neutralize this spin? And that requires brushing. Whether it's side spin, top spin, or side spin, backspin, the proper motion must be executed. For example, many viewers send me videos. Their backhand in practice is great, but in matches they do this. They can't execute it. One reason is lack of confidence, another is fear, and the last is instinct. So what's the goal? To perform the exact movement you practiced. Execute it. Use the fingers and wrist correctly. Use the forearm correctly. Hit at the right timing. Never lose to the ball in the process, or to yourself. I know many players struggle with receive because they don't dare to apply force in matches. But the less force you apply, the harder it is to neutralize spin. Remember, you must actively respond to every match and every ball.